Tonight, the president will give a speech on elections. And it's important that we understand the context here, because most Americans had probably never heard of the Election Assistance Commission until recently, when the president effectively emptied it. And honestly, that's fair that you've never heard of it. EAC is one of those government agencies that sounds completely fake, like the Department of making sure that Pluto is actually not a planet, or the FBI. But the EAC is real and it matters, or at least it did. The EAC does not count votes, does not pick the president, does not have a giant red button labeled Make Ohio Democrat or Republican. What it does do is handle the machinery underneath American elections, testing voting systems, certifying equipment, distributing federal funding, and maintaining the National Voter Registration Form. Congress created it after the 2000 election, which you might remember most notably by the Hanging Chad. Sounds more like a disciplinary proceeding after a fraternity event. It was essentially when America learned that democracy and or a republic could be entirely defeated by sheets of paper. This commission, the EAC, was deliberately made bipartisan and independent because, and stay with me here, the president should probably not have direct control over an agency overseeing election infrastructure. I know that's crazy. Trump ordered the EAC to require documentary proof of citizenship on the National Voter Registration Form. To be clear, the form already asked that, but it didn't require documentary proof. The court said he can't do that by himself, which is probably why the commission said, we're not going to do that. But after a series of Supreme Court decisions last term, the president realized he probably had more authority to do something about those running the EAC. So the president removed the 2 Democratic members, while the remaining Republican resigned, leaving the 4-seat agency with 0 commissioners because the 4th, the Republican, actually resigned earlier this year. Now, the EAC is still operating with some staff, but what they do and the direction they go in is unknown. Now, this does not mean that the president controls voting machines, at least not yet and not directly. But it does mean that he disabled the leadership of the only federal agency devoted exclusively to election administration shortly after it said no to him, and just months before arguably the most consequential midterm election in recent memory. So sure, you could say he's not taken over the machinery of elections, but he has removed the people assigned to inspect it. I want you to remember that for whatever happens at tonight's address, because when the person playing the game starts firing the umpires, you don't need to be a conspiracy theorist to wonder why he suddenly hates anyone wearing stripes, or to wonder what happens to the game when no one's making sure it's being played legitimately.